every month was the starting point. So essentially every month I was broke. And then someone introduced me to this concept of monthly recurring revenue.
What if you could generate $75,000 from a single Zoom call? Andy Audate, founder of Progenda, cracked automated webinar systems that transformed his business from 18 daily sales calls to consistent monthly recurring revenue. Andy built his first seven-figure company by 22 and helped entrepreneurs generate $20 million through one-to-many selling techniques. You'll discover his proven webinar marketing framework and the 5-second rule-making decision that creates automated revenue streams while you sleep. Welcome to another episode of the Play Big Faster podcast. I'm your host, Scherrie Prince, and we are here today with Andy Audate. Today, he's going to share with us his proven system for creating webinars that convert and building automated marketing campaigns that generate consistent monthly revenue. Now, Andy, consistent monthly revenue, those are the money words. So we are interested today to hear more about your companies and how you help other entrepreneurs build their businesses.
To bring the timeline together, Sherry, 2016, I was running one of the fastest growing T-Mobile stores. I was 19 years old, and T-Mobile had just acquired a company called Metro PCS, and we were one of their top ranking leaders, and we had 4 stores out of 4,000, and we were number 4 out of their top stores as far as dealers. And then transitioning to today, I now run a software company, and it's all about creating monthly recurring revenue. I help people create monthly recurring revenue, and I help people optimize their business so that way they can live an actual entrepreneurial journey in their life, as well as make money, but also be a father at home, a mother at home, a friend at home, so on and so forth. So for me, it's all about balance.
Okay. How do we get to webinars? Because some people will say, open up a Shopify store or go sell real estate. What was the motivation behind you helping people through using webinars?
When I transitioned from the cell phone industry and I came into the digital space, I started selling tickets for one of the number one motivational speakers, Les Brown. So I would travel around the world, and I'm selling these tickets for these motivational speakers and gurus. And what I found was strategically, many of them were doing one-to-many presentations where they were selling their products one-to-many versus one-on-one. Most people, when they're starting their business out, they're selling one-to-one. They're getting on a sales call, they're going to Starbucks to sell their product, they're meeting somebody at the office, and it's one-to-one. And when we do the math of going one-to-one, you're limited on how much you can sell and how many people you can close deals with. I learned that I can host seminars to sell my products. So I started bringing people together to sell my coaching programs and my coaching products and my courses. And then the pandemic happened in 2020. And I had a 13-city national tour lined up for me with 2,000 tickets sold. And I'm ready to go to state and sell my online programs. Back then, I was selling speaker training courses. So I was helping people speak on stage and learn the process of being a speaker and how to make money as a speaker and so forth. And that was a great industry back then. And 2020 came around, my first event in Atlanta, Georgia. They told me we can't host the event because of a state of emergency with COVID. And I said, I don't know what COVID-19 is. I have an iPhone 11. You talk about COVID-19, I'm a little bit confused. And when I learned what COVID was and how it was impacting my business, one after the other, each event got canceled. So I then transitioned from hosting them in person to now doing it online, because I still had to host events. I still had to figure out how I was going to sell my courses, sell my products, and honor the integrity of the tickets that were sold, plus honor the integrity of the sponsors that were sponsoring my events. And I learned about webinars by bringing them together on Zoom. So rather than saying the location is at a hotel conference room, I said the location is in a Zoom room. And people would still come, and I would still do the event similar to what it would be like in person. And that's when I found out that's called a webinar instead of a seminar. That's called a webinar. And it optimized my business, where I used to I would travel to a hotel in any state, and I would have to send out gear. So the gear that I would have to send out would be speakers, microphones, walkie-talkies, all this PowerPoint presentations, computers, and I would ship it to the hotel. Then I would get to the hotel and then have a team set it up, and then I had to pay for a bunch of hotel rooms for all the staff that I had working. And then there was one day in 2021, I believe, I had sold an online course and a program and a website build out as a service, and I had generated $75,000 in one Zoom call. And I left that, and I put out so much energy into the Zoom room. There's a lot of people in this room, over 200 people in the Zoom room. And I turn around and I go to my kitchen, and my wife is watching Netflix. And I go sit down with her. And I said, babe, I don't think I'm going to do an in-person event the same ways that I used to. And I don't know if anyone else will. Because after what I just experienced, I don't have to travel anymore. And I could just do it from the spare bedroom in our house. And that was what kicked off the webinar game for me. And now I'm all in.
It seems like you figured a flow out. Since you've been doing this, what are some of the things that you think entrepreneurs are getting wrong about webinars? Because some people think all I need is Zoom and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, my thought process is bring your clients on Zoom and do it in a group, doing it in a group presentation. I think the consensus for some entrepreneurs about webinars is I don't think that each person in a Zoom room will get the same amount of value. I think that's a myth. Where if you were to bring a group, so you have a product, you have a course, you have a service that you're selling, you could be the local chiropractor. Whatever it is that you're selling, rather than educating one-on-one, my proposal is educate one-to-many. Put a group of people in front of you. Put them all into a Zoom room. Give them all the education that they need to make a decision to buy your product. And then at the end of that presentation, give them all the ability to buy your service. I have a daughter on the way, and I just went to my first class, my birth class. And I know you're at Kid Scherrie, they do the thing with the balloon, and they're like, okay, this is what it's like in the belly, and this is where the baby's at. And the baby, even though the belly is bigger, the baby's really this big. And then over time, the baby gets bigger, and then the stomach gets bigger, and then it's going to come out. And then this is what happens afterwards. And I used to see that on TV and so forth. And now I'm experiencing it. Now, when I see that, here's what goes through my mind. We were being educated. So it was me and 40 other people. So 20 couples. So 20 couples are all in that presentation. This is a doula who's selling their services. That's what it is. So they're educating, right? They're educating. And then they say, hey, you could hire us as your doula. When you have the baby, we will show you what to do afterwards. Like what we showed you today was a tidbit. Was that valuable, everyone? Everyone was, yeah, it's valuable. And then now, if you are interested, you can hire us as a doula. You can have that online, and that is called a webinar to sell your services. So any service, I've seen so many different types of industries sell these services. And so the biggest misconception is not everyone is going to get value. Number two, the biggest misconception is that I have to become a speaker. I have to learn how to speak. If you are clear on what your product or your service is, your customer will listen to you in that room. Now, a portion of the audience may not be your customer. Here's the value for you. You just optimize your time. Meaning that doula, for example, in less than 3 hours was able to educate myself and 39 other people in less than 3 hours. Imagine that doula having one-on-one meetings with the husband of each couple, with the wife of each couple, and try to educate each of them with the same amount of knowledge. That would be 40 times 3 hours per person. This is about time optimization. That's what the value of a webinar is.
Let's talk about tools, because you actually have developed a tool to help people with webinars, correct?
Yes.
How does that just enhance the process and help entrepreneurs get further faster?
So there's a couple things. So when you host a webinar, you want to bring people to like a Zoom room or an online conference room or a platform. So one of the platforms that I suggest using is a tool called WebinarCore. WEBINAR and then CORE. WebinarCore, what that platform does is it allows you to stream live stream your webinar, as well as play the webinar back in an automated fashion and make it look and feel like it's live. So maybe you've seen this technology before, but one of the things that a lot of the speakers that are creating such a tremendous amount of results inside of their business, they are constantly online. Now, does that mean that they have to be online live at every single time? Let me share with you an example. Yeah, let's say a speaker who's selling an online program. Let's say there's an online program and this speaker is selling their program for $500. When they're selling that program for $500, they go on a Zoom call and they speak to a large group of people and they present their $500 program. And at the end of that presentation, they say, go to this link to purchase. When someone out of out of the group that's in the Zoom room, let's say it's 20 people. Out of the 20 people, 5 people go ahead and purchase. Great. That speaker just made $2,500. How cool would it be if that experience could happen every single day, where that speaker could have an automated campaign, an automated webinar play every single day, and that speaker is not actually there live. So what happens is that speaker downloads that presentation, that recording, upload it to a platform called WebinarCore, and WebinarCore markets and invites and sends text messages to people and emails to have them come back to the presentation and sit down and watch it. On the right-hand side, there is, on the WebinarCore app, there is a chat conversation where people can chat amongst themselves. Now, here's what's different than uploading to YouTube. When you upload to YouTube, you can speed up, you can go back. So it doesn't give you that live-like experience where it's happening right now. WebinarCore, you cannot speed up. You cannot go back. You cannot press pause. It looks and it feels live, and the whole audience is communicating and chatting with you. And what's cool with that software is you can instantly, in the beginning, you can instantly start a conversation through the chat. It's called the chat simulator. And the chat simulator, what that does is the speaker can pre-write messages from artificial people that don't exist. They just put their name, and the comment may be like, wow, this webinar is very impactful. Anyone else here think it's impactful? And that invites the people who are there live watching it, the actual people who are there live watching it. So it's a pre-written message that says, wow, this webinar is impactful. And the people who are, it might be 2 people, it might be 3 people. They will say, yeah, this webinar is impactful. This is great. And what happens is at the tail end of that presentation, a sale is then made for your product or your service, and you were not there because that was a pre-recorded presentation. That was pre-recorded.
That is awesome. Now, the tech is part of it. But do you have any suggestions about, if you had a high ticket offer that you have on this presentation, on how to structure that so that the webinar gives you the most bang for your buck?
100%. So there's a framework called MWSBO, message, why, story, business, offer. This is the framework that you're going to log in. When you log in to do your presentation, whether it's in person or even on a webinar, first thing first, you're going to share your message. And that message is the idea that you want the audience to adopt. So for example, if it is a doula, I just learned that term, so most people may not know what that term is. And for all I know, it's really the person who helps you through a pregnancy, right? It's like somebody who can be there and say, hey, I've done this 100 times. Let me tell you what to do next. Oh, the baby's here. Let me tell you how to carry the baby and how to hold the baby. Like all those small things, right? So that's what I know of a doula, and I'm sure there's more to it. Now, let's say a doula, the first thing that you're going to share as the message is you're going to adopt, hey, I want everyone to adopt this message. You need a doula. That's it. That's what the webinar is about. You need a doula. And then the rest of the presentation is why you need a doula, and stories and a business and then the offer. So the next step, the next step in the framework is going to be the why. Why do you need a doula? So now you're going to communicate why, and then you can lay out 3 to 4 bullet points and explain why you need a doula. Then after that, you're going to explain your story. Now, your story is typically going to be around the why and the message and your business. So here's what I mean. I've coached probably 3,000 people to do their own webinars. And what I found is when I explained share your story, what I've heard many times is, now we have a whole online course about this and a whole program regarding this. But one of the things that I found is that people would actually share their story and they would say, I was born in 1982 in a farm in Texas. And I'm like, no one cares about your farm or when you were born. That's not your story. Share the story that leads them to why they should learn about your offer and move forward with your offer. So for example, if my product was selling a webinar campaign or a webinar service, which that is part of my product, I will share that in 2019, part of my story is in 2019, I was single at the time, and at the time I wanted to be like a husband, I wanted to be a family man, and so on and so forth. At the time in 2019, this time it's 6 years ago, I had just started dating my now wife today, but I had just started dating her. And back then I had one-on-one sales appointments. Every 30 minutes I had one-on-one sales appointments. My day would be lined up for 9 hours, 18 sales appointments every 30 minutes. On Zoom calls, I am on the Zoom eating food, Sometimes I would put the phone on mute just to drink water. I'm sitting in front of my computer for 9 hours on Zoom calls back to back, Monday through Saturday, every single day. And my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, says, I want to build a life with you. And I don't think that's going to be possible with your schedule. I'm like, what do you mean? You're always on the phone. An example is I'm in the kitchen, I'm on the phone, I'm on a Zoom call selling my course and my program. And my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, she says, hey, I want to blend my smoothie. And I have to do one of these. I have to say, hold on. And I'm talking to the prospect about purchasing our product. And then I ask a customer a question, I put it on mute, and then I do this. That was our cue. And I would mute it, and she would blend. And she would come to me and she says, I don't think this is ever going to be a future with you. I don't think I could have kids with you. I don't think I could have a future with you. I don't think we're going to go anywhere because I just started dating you less than 90 days ago, and all you do is sit on your computer in a Zoom call. So there's the desire of me growing my business and generating revenue for myself, and then there's a desire of being a family man. And I feel like I'm at a scenario where I have to choose one or the other. And I ask myself, how do I make it work? And the way that I make it work, and by making the two work, is I bring all the people, instead of individualized Zoom calls, one-on-one presentations, I put them all on Zoom. So now, for example, if I have 18 people on a Zoom call for 10 days straight, that's 180 people. I just choose one Wednesday out of the month, or one Tuesday, or one day out of the month, and put all 180 people on a Zoom call and tell them all about what my product is, what my service is, how I'm going to help them, and I give them all an opportunity to buy. And what happened by doing that is I created more results in less amount of time. So now, instead of one-on-one Zoom calls every single day for 9 hours a day, I have my only working day is 1 day a week or 1 day a month, and I put them all on Zoom. And the rest of the time, I'm spending time with my family and I'm building my memories. And that's how I've grown my business. So that's an example of me sharing my story. I don't talk about my birthday. I don't talk about where I'm from. Unless it helps to. So that's going to be the story piece. The next one is going to be the business. Now you're going to transition to share what it is that you talk. So I've already explained what the message is. The Y is MW in the framework. Then S is going to be the story. Then you're going to transition to now on your webinar, you're going to explain about your business. What is it that you do and how do you help people? So the easiest way to start your business, to share your business in the framework is I help people do X. And that's how you start. So I help entrepreneurs scale their business with time freedom marketing systems. And then you explain a little bit more about your business. And then at the end, O in the framework is offer, where you make an offer and you say, hey, I have a product, I have a course, I have a system, I have a service, I have something that you can buy, and this is how much it is. I was just consulting with a company. They have 5,000 sales reps. And I was consulting with one of the leaders in this company. And they sell, it's a network marketing company. And they have 5,000 sales reps. And they sell a health device. And they held their first webinar under my leadership. And they did the presentation amazing. They explained their product amazing. And they said, Andy, but nobody bought. I said, let me look over your product. Let me look over your presentation. What do you mean nobody bought? And then we looked at the presentation. She shared her message. She shared why she did it. She shared the story. She shared her business. And then that was it. There was no mention of an offer to buy anything. And I said, no wonder they didn't buy anything. You didn't make an offer. You didn't sell anything. You didn't ask anybody for money. It's like saying, hey guys, I sell cookies and I got cookies for sale. And it's like, okay, where's the cookies? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, how much is it? I'm not going to tell you either. I was like, okay, how do you expect people to buy? So you got to remember that part of the offer. So message, why, story, business, offer. That's the framework.
So here is the magic question. How do you take those people from purchasing something one time to that monthly recurring model? Or is the monthly recurring model the actual webinar itself where you're getting other clients? Because it seems like to me it's easier to sell something to someone who's already purchased from you versus someone new every single month on a webinar.
The monthly recurring revenue and why I'm an advocate for it is because I've done over 400 webinars myself. And with that being said, it's a lot of webinars. We're talking about when you get to webinar 20, you got some notches on your belt. When you get to webinar 120, 120, you got more notches. When you get to 240 webinars, when you get to 326, When you get to 382, like I've done over 400 of them. And what I found, at least in my business, I'm making an effort to optimize my business for my ideal life. That's what I'm doing. I'm optimizing my business for my ideal life. So I imagined that when I started my business, this current business, when I was 25 years old, so 5 years ago, this current business. During the pandemic, I had to make a shift. And the shift that I made from hosting in-person events and selling tickets is I started a marketing agency. And the products that I was selling and the services that I was selling, online courses and marketing services, where I would build out people's websites, okay, build out people's marketing campaigns. And when I sold a website, let's say let's say it was for $1,000 for numbers ease. Let's say in one webinar, I sold 40 of those. So 100 people came in and I sold 40. So now I generated $40,000. Kudos, congratulations. And I set up those websites. So it might take me 2 weeks to set up those websites. I set up those websites, done. Guess what happened next month? As far as income, I started at zero. I just had a great success in that example, and I start at zero. And I got to go start all over again and then do another webinar. And then I sell 40, 50, 60 websites. And then I make $40,000, $50,000. Great. It takes me a couple of weeks. I set up all those websites. And a couple of weeks later, new month starts over. I start at zero. Every month was the starting point. So essentially every month I was broke. And then someone introduced me to this concept of monthly recurring revenue. And I remember I said to myself, I don't want monthly recurring. It's like a lot of commitment to monthly recurring revenue. And you got to charge people every single month. I don't know how to charge people's credit card and automate that every single month. There's a lot of commitment to that. And you got to figure out how to give value every single month. I'm not interested. I just want to grow and make more money. Not realizing that if you look at the top multimillionaires, when they say, I invested in real estate, what they really are talking about is that they invested in something that gives them monthly recurring revenue. They call it cash flow. Every single month, they're getting paid monthly. So I transitioned to monthly recurring revenue model because let's say in a month, and I sold 40 people out of 100 a website built out, and I sold them a product that charges them $250. What happens is next month, those people are going to be paying us $10,000 because 40 people. So if on webinar 1, my old model was I sell a website for $1,000. And I would tell the people who I sold the website to, choose the platform that you want me to build your website on. And I would go ahead and build their website. And then I would charge them $1,000 and I built their website. But then they were typically paying WordPress, Kajabi, ClickFunnels, right? And they're paying that platform, let's say on average, $250 a month to maintain that website that I built and to maintain the platform that houses the website. And then, so that's 40 people paying $250, but that $250 is not going to me, it's going to all these other companies. And then what we did is we went to a company who said, that company's called GoHighLevel, and we said, can I take your platform and sell it as my own? So that's what Progenda is. Progenda is a white label software of another company. And instead of them paying the customer paying $250 to another platform, they pay it to our platform, which is Progenda. And Progenda, so they pay my company $250. So on month 1, when I sell a website for $1,000, I tell them, you got to get our platform, which is Progenda, and then they pay us $250 a month. So that first webinar, I make the $40,000, and then the next month, 40 people pay $250 to maintain that website that was built. Now my company just made 10 grand. And as I continue to do that, if I do that, I stack that over time, that's how I go from $10,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue to $20,000 to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month in recurring revenue where customers pay monthly. Think about your cell phone bill. Think about the cell phone bill. When do you think of canceling your cell phone bill? We don't.
Never. Yeah.
It's just a cost of doing business. It's a cost that's like, hey, I know that's always going to be paid. That's what people experience as a business with their CRMs, with their website management platforms. So now I invite everyone to get involved in some type of monthly recurring revenue because that's where the true financial freedom lies. It's not owning your own business. It's having recurring revenue.
That is so good. So when you're thinking about life for an entrepreneur, you're building it around the life that you want. The product that you have that helps with webinars, how many webinars are too many webinars? Or does it really depend on the subject matter? And if I'm trying to have every week I'm doing a webinar for my business, is that too much saturation?
No, definitely not. I host 3 to 4 webinars a day per product. So if I have 10 products, that's 30 webinars that I'm hosting today.
Andy, you've been busy.
And 30 times 30, we could all do the math, right? But it's how many times can you make an offer? Because what in a webinar is education. It's educating people on my message or on your message, educating people on your why, on your story, on your business, on your offer, and giving them an opportunity to buy. Now, some people are not going to buy. Some people are going to buy. But it's giving them the opportunity. Because if someone else, let's say you have a competitor, if your competitor sells their product on a webinar as well, but they do it live only live. And so they're limited on time. This is why I suggest doing live plus automated. If you do live plus automated, you can still capture people's hearts live, but also do the automated experience. And the automated experience is where you really start to see your income grow because you're sleeping and you're selling. And you're giving people an opportunity to buy. In order to make more sales, you got to make more offers. That's the reality.
For someone who's just starting to build a marketing funnel and to get this in place, what is the very first step you would tell someone to take if they're approaching this process and trying to use webinars?
The first step I would say is go to a platform like WebinarCore.com. And if you go to WebinarCore.com/play, what I'm sure they'll do is they'll give you a discount for the podcast that I'm on with Scherrie. So that's WebinarCore.com/play for being watching this on the Play Big Faster podcast. So I would go to WebinarCore.com/play, start a trial. When I start a trial, what happens then after is you get the platform. When you get the platform, you then record a presentation and you put it on a web page. If you don't have any platform to use to build out your web page, you can go to Progenda, Progreda, Progenda.com/play as well. And then you can start a trial of a software. That software, Progenda, what that is, that's your website, that's your email, that's your text message, that's your phone call. That's a CRM to manage all your customers. So when you're going to couple these two softwares together, Progenda and WebinarCore, you're going to bring those two softwares together. The Progenda software is going to send out the emails and host your website. So you're going to record your presentation, upload it to WebinarCore. Now your presentation is on autopilot. It's automatically presenting your offer and your product to your customers in the morning and on the night at all times. Every 10 minutes, you're hosting a new webinar. Then you're going to use Progenda to market that presentation on social media. Progenda, one of the features in Progenda is a social media planner where you can post content on social media. So you're going to use Progenda's AI feature to start marketing on social media. When you do this, what's going to happen is that there are going to be people who are going to say, I want to come to your webinar. And you have one or two options. You can tell them to wait 2 months, 3 weeks, whatever, or you can tell them to go sign up today. And when you tell them to go sign up today, you give them an opportunity to go ahead and buy your product or your service.
Awesome. So if you had just one piece of advice to share with entrepreneurs on how to play big faster, what would it be?
Take action fast. Take action as fast. Mel Robbins wrote a book, and it's called The 5-Second Rule. And in Mel Robbins' book, it's once you have a thought, make a decision within 5 seconds. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decide. One of the reasons that most entrepreneurs fail is not because of making the wrong decision, it's because of indecision. That's the number one reason that people fail. It's not making the wrong decision, it's because of indecision. You don't decide. Your competitor has already decided, tried it, failed, and is on to the new thing while you're still considering the first thing. And many times, the first thing that you're considering, you're in ponder for months on end or even years on end. I'll talk to an entrepreneur who says, man, I've been thinking about doing this for a year. Or, man, I thought about ChatGPT 3 years ago. Man, I was thinking about creating that myself, man. I just was. And then it's like, what? Man, Andy, it's crazy, man. I actually created Google. What do you mean? I thought about it in 1992. And I'm like, you still been thinking about it? You still thinking about Google, creating a Google? I thought about creating a Google. And I had the whole idea. I had the whole business plan. I had a binder. I had everything. So we were still thinking about it. And the two guys went ahead and built the first version, which was terrible. And they continued to optimize and evolve it to what Google is today, the multi-billion-dollar organization. So I share that with you. In 2016, I had a gentleman who came to me and showed me a phone. They said, this is the number one phone. This will be the number one phone in the world. This is better than the iPhone. It had a projector over here. It had a projector. It had a faster computer on the device than the Apple iPhone and so forth. And I was talking to this person. I said, when are you going to start selling it? I'm waiting to get it perfect. It has to be perfect. I said, dude, it looks really cool. You got a projector. You can share content with your family on a wall. You know, it has a faster computer. It has a better. You see what this is on the iPhone? These are higher megapixel cameras on the back of the iPhone. This gentleman's essentially had this technology on the back of his iPhone in 2016. iPhone didn't have this technology in 2016. So this gentleman has an amazing device in his hand, and he's still waiting to get it perfect. And you know what? He still hasn't launched. He's perfecting the product. So he's the only one in his basement with that product. So indecision is a decision. So you want to play big faster, launch. Move quickly, make decisions fast, optimize. And when I say optimize is, okay, I should have done things differently, then pivot. Okay, and a week goes by, man, that didn't work, then pivot. A week goes by, that didn't work, then pivot. But every new week, you're making decisions and you're optimizing. What happens is if every new week you're making a decision, you have 52 variations of your product or your service that has been deployed to the marketplace. If you do that in a year, 52 weeks, 52 variations. Rather than sitting in your office and making the perfect one, you're on a version 52, and you gave a large group of people the opportunity to buy your product. Then that's how you play big faster.
So Andy, if the listeners and viewers want to take this conversation offline, what is the best way to contact you?
Feel free to contact me via social media, Andy Audate, ANDYAUDATE. That's Andy Audate on all social media platforms. Or you can send me an email to support@andyaudate.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm glad to support other people in playing big faster.
And until next time, everyone, play big faster.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Play Big Faster podcast. Want more entrepreneurial content?
I like this.
Make sure to subscribe for future episodes.
Already subscribed.
I just clicked on it.
Don't forget to like and leave a review. Share with a friend that needs this in their life.
I think you need this more than I.
Oh, and make sure to follow Scherrie on IG at Scherrie Speaks. And remember to play big faster.